Okay, this is part 6 of Federalist number 4. Let me read it a little bit. Favorable as this view of the subject may be, some observations remain which will place it in a light still more satisfactory. So he continues with answering the concerns of people who don't like this Constitution, the Anti-Federalists. And like I said in the first part, Madison brings up 6 arguments in this Federalist Papers after reviewing what the first 13 Federalists talked about. Then he says, number 1, we're proposing a republic, not a democracy. The countries of Europe for hundreds of years have just mastered the art of showing you what a monarchy is, what an absolute monarchy is. Most of the places it doesn't work. It's absolute. It takes people's freedoms away. In some places where it's halfway good, it's not good anymore for the situation that we are in. So he says, we've made a discovery. Americans have made a discovery. This is called an extended republic, a republic where you have representation instead of direct democracy, and also it can cover a vast area. This is new in the world. And if Americans allow us, we can establish this system after adopting this Constitution, after accepting this Constitution, and we can show the world this new thing that would be much better for their future peace and prosperity, because the era of kings and absolute kings and monarchies are over. And then after that, I said the second thing he proposes is the idea of limited government and enumerated powers. Remember, enumerated, just kind of like numerical number. It has to do with number. It means it has numbers, a definite numbers. It's only limited to a certain number. So the Federal Convention, the Federal Constitution that we are asking you to ratify, it gives the Union, the national government, only enumerated powers. So here is the paragraph that it speaks to that. In the first place, it is to be remembered that the general government, when he says general government, he means the federal government, is not to be charged with the whole power of making and administrating laws. We don't give it absolute power to make all the laws for everywhere, and to administer those laws too. So its jurisdiction is limited to certain enumerated objects. There are only certain things that it can make decisions about. Enumerated objects, enumerated areas that it can make laws for and administer, which concern all the members of the Republic. So it's things that are going to be concerning to all the 13 republics, not just one side of the republic or the other side, 2 of the states, but it's got to be laws that will apply for advancement of all of the republics, but which are not to be attained by the separate provisions of any. The subordinate governments, what he means by subordinate governments, he's talking about the state governments, which can extend their care to all those other objects which can separately provided for, will retain their due authority and activity. So here he's forced to say the national government, the general government, is going to only make laws, administer laws that applies to the 13 states. The rest of the laws, the rest of the authority, the majority of authority will be left for the states to decide. States will still have the most important part to play in this union. It's not like we're saying states should not be there. They'll have their due authority. They'll have their authority that they need to take care of what they're supposed to. Were it proposed by the plan of the convention to abolish the governments of the particular states, its adversaries would have had some ground for their objection, though it would not be difficult to show that if they were abolished, the general government would be compelled by the principle of self-preservation to reinstate them in their proper jurisdiction. He says our critics act like we're saying we need to abolish or get rid of all these state governments. This is crazy. We are not saying that. As a matter of fact, he says even if those state governments were not there and we only had one union government, the union government after a few years would realize to get the job done, it needs local administrations. Whether provincial, whether they cover like an area of state, or just local, like a city or a county. So they would reinstate the states. They will go ahead and create boundaries and make administrative lines and create those states. So he says this is crazy. How could we abolish something that we know we need? Plus, he knows that the people of the states will look with a lot of doubt towards centralized government. So Publius, Hamilton, Jay, and Madison know the reality on the ground. They just had a revolution. They just kicked the British out and they want to establish a republic. They're not going to give power to somewhere, or all of the power to somewhere that's far, far away from them. And remember, when they think far away, they think 2 to 3 weeks for them to travel from here all the way up there. So to them, that is far, far away. The next paragraph, it says a second observation to be made is that the immediate object of federal constitution is to secure the union of the 13 primitive states. Primitive means original. Prime as in the beginning. Prime number is in the beginning, the original states. So we want to secure a union for these 13 original states, which we know to be practicable, and to add to them such other states as may arise in their own bosoms or in their neighborhoods, which we cannot doubt to be equally practicable. The arrangements that may be necessary for those angles and fractions of our territory which lie on our northwestern frontier must be left to those whom further discoveries and experience will render more equal to the task. He says, plus, we've got so much territories. These are territories that belong to what is going to be the United States. And when he says Northwest Territory, he's talking about this area. He says, we know that we are going to have, as people move this way and settle here, we're going to have territories that will eventually be states, will apply to become states. And we think we have in this system, in this Constitution, a system that can actually provide that for the Union. Because we know if let's say somebody like a referee, somebody that's not going to be taking sides, if a federal government, if the federal government is not there, all these states will start fighting with one another over the territories here. But if the territory is given to the federal government to administer, the federal government will find good ways to administer them, to admit states, and as we do this, we learn for the future. So he says this is also will be a learning experience for us. So he's already telling people that you can move to the West, establish territories, and eventually will allow you, when your population gets large enough, will allow you to be states. But here's the great thing that they did. They said states in equal standing with the first states. So a state that's going to be coming in later on will not be at a disadvantage. Okay? Otherwise, this whole system would not work. So that's what this paragraph is talking about, and we will continue in the next video.